During the break, someone asked me what Daniel chapter 11, verse 40 to 45 had with our study on Deutronomy 22, verse 5. And the answer is nothing. It had nothing to do with that study, but the reason we went there is because we were talking about methodology. Deuteronomy 22:5, either this is a flowing, consistent thought through those verses, which means if you don't understand one, it should alert you to the fact that you probably don't understand the others, or they're independent, unique thoughts. And in that case, you can put each one in an individual box, a compartment. We saw evidence for that in Daniel chapter 9, verses 26 and 27, how you can't take a noun or a pronoun in one part of that verse and attach it to another part without being really careful that it's dealing with the same event or the same perspective of that history, because we know it's the same history. We then went to Daniel 11 to show that in that case, we do that very thing. We say it's one perspective from verse 36 to verse 40. There's a consistent thought or theme that runs all the way through that. Without that, what you can't do is use the logic either that Smith holds to or that we hold to. And whilst we were there, I wanted to reiterate our understanding or the approach that we should be having now with verse 40. How this has become a subject of Bible prophecy based upon the times in which we're living, that when we go to Smith's work, which is really Lich's work, that it's not so straightforward to just dismiss what he says. So we made that point. Can someone give me the reference where Lich gives his commentary on this history of verse 40? Someone told me before? Sorry? AP? APC? Is that enough? Yep. So we spoke about Lich's commentary and how Smith borrowed that information. We also spoke about the first angel. If it's only Miller or if Lich joins him in that work of taking the role of the first angel. So someone directed me to a statement that was written let me see if I can find it again. I've lost it. That was written by Haskell. So this is in Haskell's work, The Story of the Seer of Patmos. So this is his commentary on the book of Revelation. He does a commentary on the book of Daniel and he does one on Revelation. So this is the chapter that's dealing, chapter 4, which is the message to the churches. The diagram of the 7 churches. That's the chapter title. It's chapter 4, the message to the churches. Continue, part 2. This is SNH. SNH. No, sorry. SSP 78.2. SSP 78.2. A brother showed me this passage, and the reason he showed it to me because he said this helped to give evidence that they were the same messenger. So I'll read. P. 297. Sorry? Not 97? Oh, 95. This one? So I'm just going to find that one. So we're going to page 177. Okay, so are we all there? In 177, it says the following. In 1838, Josiah Litch and William Miller, after a careful study of the prophecies, came to the conclusion that on this last date, nations might expect to see the Turkish Sultan surrender his power. This prophecy was published to the world, but there were events transpiring which also called the attention of the nations to Constantinople. Sultan of Turkey and Mehmet Ali, Pasha of Egypt, were at war, the Pasha refusing an indemnity demanded by the ruler of Turkey. In 1839, the Pasha was victorious in battle over the Turkish army, and he sent another force under command of his son to Syria and Asia Minor and threatened to carry his victorious arms against Constantinople. This juncture, England, Austria, Prussia, Russia, 4 European nations, combined in the demand that the Pasha should confine himself to Syria and Egypt. Council of these 4 powers was held July 15, 1840. The ruler of Turkey agreed to abide by their decision and was only too glad to save his life. So this is by Haskell. He says, in 1838, Josiah Litch and William Miller, after a careful study of the prophecies, came to the conclusion that on this last date, nations might expect to see the Turkish Sultan surrender his power. So all you wanted to show us was the connection between Miller and Lich. Is that correct? Okay. That they're both doing this careful study about the prophecies. So I'm just going to go back to page 78, paragraph 2. He says, same author, in 1838, Josiah Lich, we can turn that fan round now. In 1838, Josiah Lich and William Miller published an exposition on the 9th chapter of Revelation, in which it was predicted that the Ottoman Empire would fall in 1840. So the way that's written, it seems to imply that they were in some kind of collaboration and they wrote a joint book. In 1838, Lich and Miller published an exposition on the 9th chapter of Revelation. So it seems to read that they were together on page 77, that they wrote this common book, and on page 177 it says they were both doing careful study of the prophecies. Okay? Yeah? So I don't know if people have ever looked at that history. I've never found a document that Miller produced which has published an exposition on Revelation 9 that he is doing the same thing that Lich is doing. I don't recall seeing that. I could be wrong. Certainly know that Lich is doing that. He actually begins to publish his thoughts and his ideas. He joins the movement in 1838 and he begins to publish his work. But I don't recall seeing that Miller was doing that on this subject of Revelation 9. Does anybody know that for certain? That Haskell is correct here? That Miller is not only, as he would say, carefully studying the prophecies, but he's also published an exposition on chapter 9. Maybe we could have a look, those of us who are good at that, maybe you could have a look to see if Miller actually published anything in 1838. I've got a feeling he didn't, but it'd be nice if he did. So I just want to give one more point on that. This is Prophetic Faith of Our Fathers, Volume 4. PFF 4. Page 448. This is Froome's work. I'm going to cut, this is paragraph 1, cut in half, 443. 443, paragraph 3. I'm going to read for a couple of pages. So it's 443, 448. And a couple of more. Finally, in 1838, 3 substantial ministerial recruits came to Miller's side with unstinted service, definitely augmenting his message on the impending advent. Still, other stalwarts joined hands and hearts in the enterprise during 1839 and 1840. Do we know who those 3 ministerial recruits are? He calls them substantial ministerial recruits. We might call them heavyweights. These are important key speakers. He receives ministerial support, ministerial recruits in 1838, and there's 3 of them, and they're big important people. Do you know who they are? Lich, Hymes, and Fitch. Lich, Hymes, and Fitch. Agree with that? So let me read something else. A few pages forward, actually. Page 528. So it's about nearly 100 pages forward. It says, let us drop back again to 1838 and become better acquainted with Miller's earliest ministerial recruits, the first 4 men to rally undeservedly to his second Advent banner. What's Froome done? Contradicted himself. What did he say 100 pages before? 3. And now he says 4. Okay, so just going to go back to what we just read. 3 substantial people come, and then more come in 39 and 40. The first of these divisions, so what he's going to do now, he's going to divide Millerite history. I thought this was quite nice. He divides Millerite history into certain dispensations. This is Froome doing that. Dispensation 1. The first of these divisions was the period of Miller's solitary witness in the small towns and rural communities of New York State. This has got nothing to do with Deuteronomy 22 verse 5. It's only because we were here about the first angel. I saw this. I thought it's quite interesting. So if you're taking notes, this is just an extra bit of information. Box it off. It's not part of the study. 448 paragraph 1. The first of these divisions was the period of Miller's solitary witness. This is now going to divide Millerite history and rural communities in New York State, New England, and Eastern Canada, with his book of lectures at last appearing as the one supporting piece of literature. So he does all these sermons, then he makes this book, which is a basic collection of his sermons. This was roughly 1831 to 1838. Miller was, as a full-time preacher, only from 1834 onwards. We normally mark 33, he gets his credentials. Froome is saying he actually becomes full-time the following year. Could be a couple of months, I don't know, from 34 to 40, from 33 to 34. But he marks it as being 1834. So do we all understand why he's marking 31 to 38? What's 31? What's happening in 31? Put your hand up. Who said? Put your hand up. Begins to teach in 31? First public lecture, you said? Okay, so he begins to preach in 31. He's on his own. It's in 34 that he goes full time. 33 he receives his credentials. Do you understand why the author said 38? First dispensation. 31 to 38. Do we understand why it's 38? Who said yes? 38. Why 38? Because up to 38, he's working by himself, and now he's having these people join him. We normally mark 1840 as a transition from one man to a movement, but there's this build-up from 38. I'm going to drop down a few pages. This is 518. 518. And now we shall trace the rise of and remarkable progress of the 1843 phase of the Millerite movement, stripped of diverting detail. What do we call that? Stripped of diverting detail. What word do we use often nowadays? Noise? Yeah, we say let's not get confused about the noise. Let's understand what the issue is. Froome's using all the same methodology that we're using. He says forget the noise, let's go to the theme or the idea, so as to get a general bird's eye view of the whole. Have we been doing that in our class? Well, I didn't call it a bird's eye view, I gave it a different title. But can we see it's the same principle? What people are going to accuse me or you of? You're the minions, I'm the follower of Froome. And what do people say Froome was? Jesuit. That was for our enemies. Any comments? This will carry us from 1838, when Miller was joined by his earliest all-out ministerial associates. What does all-out mean? All out. Full-time. It doesn't mean no longer. It means all out. Totally committed. Full-time. His earliest full-time ministerial associates in proclaiming the soon coming of the Saviour, up to and through the spring of 1844, or the close of the important 1843 phase of the Millerite movement. So phase one, the way he did it, there's obviously a previous phase, 31 to 38, then 38 to April the 19th. You see that? So I like that, the concept that he's using. I want to drop down to 528. Yep, we're in 528 now, paragraph 1. Now he's going to say, let's drop back again to 1838 and become better acquainted with Miller's earliest ministerial recruits, the first 4 men to rally unreservedly, which means full time, to his second Advent banner. In 1838 and 39, let us scan their backgrounds, their talents, etc. First, Josiah Litch. Second, Charles Fitch. Third, Elder Manjit. Sorry? Third. We've got Fitch. No, we've got Litch, Fitch. Four. He says, let's list them out. First we'll introduce Litch, then we'll follow Charles, and next, sorry? I don't understand what the name of the person. Bates. And then the fourth one, and finally, Himes. Himes, the peerless, which means without comparison, the peerless publicist. You okay with that? These 4, however, were soon to be joined by a host of other lights, some of lesser and some of even greater brilliance. Miller, of course, was a Baptist, so he's just going to list out what their religious beliefs are. So some were less famous and some were more famous, if we're going to take light to be brilliance. So the 3 that he was referring to before was Litch, Fitch and Bates. It wasn't Himes. They're the heavyweight ministerial talent that he's going to use. Is that correct? Depends how you read ministerial. What does ministerial mean? Ministers. Does that mean they were previously ministers or they become ministers? Which one? They become, that they weren't? So was Litch previous minister? Yes. Was Fitch? Was Himes? Yep. So those 3 were the ones that he must have been referring to before. So we got that correct. Those 3. Ministerial support. He got support from the ministers. And then, now he's going to change it. He's going to say the earliest ministerial recruits is using ministerial in a different way or the same way. Must be different because Bates is not. Is Bates a minister? Not really. Okay. So all of that has nothing to do with our study, but I thought that was interesting. So, task what we have is to see if Miller spoke about Revelation 9 in 1838. My brother?
With that quotation that I gave, SSP 177, it showed direct connection between Miller and Josiah Litch. But to me, as I go through this study, it's like it's Josiah Litch who gave an in-depth of Revelation chapter 9. If you go to Bishop Bates' writing, that is V22.
There's too much information for the moment. Let's just break that down a little bit. SSP 178. I'm going to read that. In 1838, Josiah Litch and William Miller, after careful study of the prophecies, came to the conclusion. Are you saying they're in communication?
That quotation shows they had a direct communication. But in other writings, other pioneers, they explicitly show that it is Josiah Litch who gave an in-depth study of Revelation chapter 9. For example, if you read Joseph Bates, for example, there's a book, BP2K 52 paragraph 2. Bates pamphlet 2. You know that?
Just comment on that.
Just let me read the first two sentences. It says that the second conference was another glorious gathering in the city of Laurel, June 15 to 17 in the year 1841. This was another time of deep interest and gave a new impulse to the cause. Here, Brother Desai gave the history of the Ottoman Empire. So, from 1831, from 1838 when Desai joined William Miller, I think it's the one who's going to do a thorough analysis of Revelation chapter 9, even though Miller and other pioneers were still grappling to understand the 9th chapter of Revelation. So from this quotation, I think it's Josiah Litch who had, he took time to understand all those events.
Anyone else want to say anything? Oh, this is what I wanted to read. Prophetic Faith of Our Fathers, beginning page 448. Because I missed some things. 1831 to 1838, we did that. I missed some. The second phase, 1838 to 1840. It was introduced and accelerated by Miller's entries into the cities after it had been joined by these ministers. Third, the General Conference period, 40 to 42. Fourth came the era of the giant camp meetings, 42 to 43. So he's given 1, 2, 3, 4. First one, 31 to 38, 38 to 40, 40 to 42, 42 to 43. This is PFF 4, page 448. The first one he works in small towns. The second one, he enters into the big cities. The third one is the general conferences. And the fourth one is the giant camp meetings. So he's got a consistent theme all the way through. I like the way he's approached that. I think that's nice. So there's one more thing I had, which I wanted to pick up. I can't find it, but Litch and Miller only actually meet in 1839. That's when the first time they actually meet. And again, I haven't seen any evidence where they're communicating one with another, unless someone could provide that. In 1838, a copy of Miller's lectures was put into the hands of Josiah Litch with a request for his opinion on its positions, and basically he doesn't agree with it. Let me see if I can find something else. There's an interesting thing I want to see if I can find this. Okay, so we're in around page 530. So I like this because I think it gives some clues why Litch is going to do this work. It's not just some coincidence or some miracle. So we read 528. We saw the four men, Litch, Fitch, Bates, Himes. If we're okay with that. Now he's going to talk about Litch. The first well-known minister, this is 528 paragraph 2, was Dr. Josiah Litch. Doctor. Litch espoused the Adventist cause in 1838, took his place publicly as a co-labourer with Miller. He had a strong and vigorous mind and a bent for investigation and the courage to advocate what he believed to be the truth. He's a very talented speaker. Litch was thoroughly conscientious. He was a humble man. Why did they make humility such a big issue? Rule 5, can we see that? Rule 5, this is humility. If you want to trust the people, they must be humble. Early in 1838, he received a copy of Miller's lectures, as we have seen, with the request that he read it. Okay, so this is the bit I like. What is Litch going to do, by the way? What's he famous for? What is he famous for? Sorry? No, I don't mean that. Why do we think what's he famous for in our eyes? Study of Revelation 9, Islam. Yeah? And it's on the chart. Where does Islam... It's there, yeah. Where does Islam start? 606. Okay? So, what brings Litch to 606? That's what we want to ask ourselves. Is it angels guiding him? Is it some random thing? It's a miracle that happens. How does he get to 606? That's the question we want to ask ourselves. In order to understand Revelation 9, yeah, you see you're in the wilderness and there's a box or a pit. There's a key that's opened. You open the pit, the box, and all of this stuff comes out, this smoke. And we say all of that is what? Rise of Islam. And we use the year 606 when it all begins, all this story, yes? Is that how we do that? We get all of that from Litch. On the chart, I'll read it to you. 606, rise of Mohammedanism. This power stood not up against the Prince of Princes because it did not exist until this period. Revelation 9:1, a star fell. Everyone okay with that? Where does he get all of that from? Who knows? So, it's a rhetorical question because I want to answer it. Early in 1838, Fitch received a copy of Miller's lectures. We're in 530, paragraph 1. As we have seen, with the request that he read it and give his opinion to its merit. However, the idea of anyone trying to discover the time of Christ's second advent was so distasteful to Litch that at first he was scarcely willing to examine it. So I'm not even going to read this because it's foolishness. He felt he could with ease overthrow its argument in a few minutes. He can totally destroy Miller's arguments. It won't take him long because he's clever. Do we see humility there? Not much humility. He was already well aware that the Protestant world, this is the important bit, generally believed. So who believes this, what we're going to read? Protestantism believes this. So I want to ask you, what is the unsealing of the book? A message in relation to time. And what time do we pick up? We pick up 457, which is connected to 2300 days. Brings you to when? Brings you to when? One more time. Brings you to when? No. Brother Robert, where does it bring you to? Sorry? Someone said 43. You're not listening. You're on your phone. What answer is it? We did a whole study on it yesterday, or the day before, whenever. Sorry? 1798. Brings you to 1798, doesn't it? Yes? Okay. We're going to be accused, I'm going to be accused of fanaticism, destroying the 2300 days. I'm saying the unsealing of time brings you to where? 1798. When is the book of Daniel unsealed? Why is that so crazy an idea? Okay, so see what the problem is. What does Protestantism believe? We're going to read that. So the whole book is locked to Protestantism. This is a Protestant issue. Who's going to unlock this? No, Miller is going to unlock this. And Litch, you're already reading now, you already know the answer now, if you've read the paragraph. Litch is a Protestant, so he's going to fight against Miller. Miller is going to unseal time. We okay with that concept? What year do you need to get to? 1798. He was already well aware that the Protestant world generally believed that Antichrist, under the various prophetic periods of Daniel, Paul and John, was the papacy. So he agrees with that. And he knew papacy is what? I'm going to call it geography. And he knew that Protestants generally believed that this power was to continue for how long? 1260. Everyone knows that. The unsealing of time is not duration, it's what? It's the start point. 1260 year days, which is okay. That quite a few of these learned writers began the period with what? The decree of focus, that's how you pronounce it. In what year? Don't even look at the paragraph, you know what year it is. What's the year that Litch is an expert on? It's on the chart. Litch, yeah, it is. What year is he an expert on? 606. He knew that Protestants generally believed that this power was to continue for 1260 years, and that quite a few of these learned writers began the period with the decree of focus in 606, and consequently would not terminate until 1866. To Litch, this evidence seemed rather decisive. So what is in his brain from the very beginning before he ever studies? 606. So it's already in his brain. And if you go to the history, is 606 connected to the rise of Islam? It definitely is. So he's being chosen to unlock Revelation 9 is not because he's super clever or he's specially chosen. Why was he chosen? Because when he comes to the Advent movement, he's going to wrestle with two issues. Two dates. Which ones? 538 and 606. And as he wrestles with that, as he compares those two issues, somehow or another, he comes to the understanding that 606 is relevant, but not in the way that Protestantism understood it to be. Can we see that connection? I think that's really neat. For those of us, I think, who worry we don't get dreams and visions, angels don't guide us, that we think we're normal, we don't learn anything. All of this was based upon his own preconceived wrong ideas that God would use him to do this mighty work because he just studied this erroneous position and this truthful position, and he had held on. He said it was a decisive position. He had to get weaned off of that, and in the process of that, he had to work through 606, and he was brought to a revelation. A revelation that makes, in many ways, Adventism unique among all the Christian dispensations. Makes us a sect, gives us a creed, if you like, because of our perspective of Islam. All because of that. Is that good? However, to please his friend, as well as from personal curiosity, to know what arguments could be summoned up to support so novel a doctrine, the novel doctrine is Miller's doctrine, which is what? 538. He began to read Miller's lectures. As his new book was popularly called. It's called Miller's Lectures. As he progressed, his prejudice began to melt, and he came gradually to feel that Miller had many good points of truth, especially the idea that Christ's coming reign of glory would be on the earth renewed. In fact, the more he read, the more weighty Miller's arguments appeared to be. Nor did they seem to conflict with his staunch Methodist beliefs and convictions. Miller's evidence for the 1260 years, as from 538 to 1798, really seems stronger for that of the more common later dating, the one we've read, 606, 1866, which is the common rendering. The reasoning and the scriptural evidence convinced Litch that there could be no millennium until Christ comes in person. So that's the millennial issue that we've already spoken about. That's dispensationalism. The two people are Darby and Schofield. The reign of the man of sin and the glorious millennium obviously could not coexist. Before he had finished the book, he became fully satisfied that the arguments were so clear, logical, scriptural, and conclusive that it was virtually impossible to disprove Miller's fundamental contentions. Prejudice had given way to definite acceptance of the Advent faith. He suddenly become from what to what? A bigot who's proud to a messenger who's humble. So again, that had nothing to do with the study that we're doing, but I thought that was interesting as we see the relationship for the two, that Litch, his whole understanding of Revelation 9, his selection of 606, is because of his understanding of the 1260 years of Bible prophecy. He's brought to that place, which is the same way that Miller was brought to this place. It's the unsealing of the book of Daniel, which is 1798. Any comments? Good. So let's go back to our study. Deuteronomy 22, verse 5. So, hopefully you've been talking during our breaks, your various conversations. I've spoken with people during my breaks, my conversations. In our class, I set up a scenario that said there's an emergency. And the verse says, women, we'll frame it this way, women are not allowed to wear the clothes of men. If they did, they are an abomination. We seem to understand that. So I asked the question, what do you do in an emergency situation? Gave a scenario. People seemed comfortable that in an emergency you can wear the trousers at home. So I presume you think it's not an abomination then. But people began to balk, resist, if you wear them in public. Because people say, well, that would be really bad. So we think of that as an abomination. And the way you could be really clear on that is when the tables are turned and someone says, would you mind wearing a dress at home? And most men will say, I don't mind as long as no one's looking. But I wouldn't go out doing that. Are we okay with that? Sorry? I will repeat what I've just said. We think it's okay for women to humiliate themselves in public by wearing trousers, but men wouldn't want to do that. Men would want to take the skirt off and put their wet pants on and go out in public. They wouldn't be seen in a dress, but it's okay for women. That was the point I was making.
I do agree that the book of Deutronomy is telling us that women should not be wearing clothes. Is it talking about trousers?
I'm not talking about. I'm just going through the parable that we went through. I'm not saying that he means trousers here, but just as we understand it, it always comes down to the subject of trousers. It always does. We're Adventists. We know that's what the framework that every Adventist looks at this issue upon. So, I asked, why would it be an abomination? Why would it be so bad if women wore those trousers in public, if we're okay that they can wear them in private? Then I gave another situation, another scenario. You're cutting trees, you're cutting the grass, you're riding a bicycle, doing some work. You're working in bush and you need to cover your legs because it can be dangerous if you have bare legs. I think most of us would see that. So is it okay for a woman to wear trousers then? Do we think yes or no? And if yes, it's okay, how comes that's not an abomination? Because the way it's framed in Deuteronomy 22:5. And many of those sisters who do that would not go to church wearing those trousers. So I'm just giving different scenarios, not saying people are right or wrong, which is real life that we all experience. So, what about if you wear a skirt and you put your trousers underneath that? Would that work? So you're cutting the grass and you know it's dangerous to wear a skirt, so you say, I'll put a pair of trousers underneath, but just to make God happy, and so I don't get labelled as an abomination, I'll put a skirt on top. Would that be okay? Would that sort the problem out? Because you're still wearing men's trousers, aren't you? But you've got a skirt on at the same time, and so is that okay? And what's the problem with that scenario? What's the problem? And people do that, you know, because it's logically consistent, kind of. People justify it. As long as you wear trousers but you cover it with a skirt, you know, it's okay. I don't know who they think that they're hiding that information from, because God can see, but probably a man can't see if it's a long skirt. I said how crazy that is, because a long skirt, it's dangerous, becomes a health and safety issue. So, what's the problem with that scenario? Putting a pair of trousers underneath your dress, and that being an abomination. One of my sisters there, there's 4 of you, my sister. What's the problem with that?
According to what you're saying, how could you have man's shoulder inside is wrong, according to you. But how wearing a lady's trouser and not minding putting on the upper part on top is what's wrong.
Okay, so it's all about the label.
Yeah.
It said made for men or made for women.
The design, not even the label.
You mean the fit?
Yeah.
How it fits? What about if you're a woman that your body shape, a man's trousers fit better for you? Maybe you don't have wide hips. I don't want to get into the physiology of a woman, but what about if your body shape says you look and feel better in men's trousers?
That will automatically be a lady's trouser, because if it's good on you, it becomes good.
Okay, so it's all about possession, not about the label. If I buy a man's vest and I'm a woman, now I own the vest, now it's a woman's vest. Cut the label off so no one knows whose it is, that it wasn't made for men, now it's mine, so now it's suddenly becomes a woman's vest now, because I own it and I cut the label. That's what you said.
Let's say let's remain with the label.
So it's not okay for a woman to wear comfortable men's trousers because it said made for men, even though it looks identical. If you've got a pair of Levi's, say Levi jeans, you can't tell the difference between men's ones and women's ones unless you look carefully and see that the women's ones are shaped with a hip, smaller waist, wider hip. But if you just looked at them from 30 feet away, you couldn't tell the difference. I'm pretty sure you couldn't. Okay, so I want us to see, when we take these things in the way we do, how basically what we end up doing is say, we don't have the answers, so we won't think. I'm not saying you're not thinking. We get to a place where we can't think, because if you think, you just run around in circles, saying none of this makes sense. So we stop thinking, we just say what? Thus saith the Lord, Ellen White says it, we'll just do it. Because you've got no other option, because nothing makes sense. My sister at the behind, what are your thoughts? What's wrong with putting the trousers underneath the skirt? Sorry? That's hypocrisy. Okay? My sister behind. You'll be deceiving God. It's not making sense. So there's consistency, uniform answer, that it's bad. Doesn't make sense, hypocrisy, God doesn't like it. So the problem with all of those answers, of course, is that Ellen White says women are supposed to wear trousers under their skirts. She says we're required to do that. In fact, she tried to force the women to do that, but the women manipulated her instructions, and so she said, no more instructions. Forget it. We call that the reform dress. And I would argue, however you want to discuss the issue of the reform dress, it's a pair of trousers under a skirt or a dress. To me, at the most basic level, that's what it is. And all my sisters said it was an abomination to do that, to put trousers underneath skirts or dresses. So, however you approach this issue, there does not seem to be any internal consistency there. We're all Adventists. If God says it's an abomination, never do it, ever. Then risk getting damaged or hurt when you do work. You get snake bites, tick bites, some kind of scorpion bite. If you wore trousers, you'd have protection. You can't do that because God says it's an abomination. Then you say, well, I'll die in the cause of service. God will understand if I got bitten by a snake because I wore a skirt. He would understand because I died faithfully in my duty. Or they say, that's a job that women shouldn't do. That's a man's job. Women in the kitchen, men doing gardening. Get that straight from the book of Genesis, perhaps. That's how we might want to read that. So people struggle with gender swapping and saying the women should be in the garden, the men should be in the kitchen. Because you have to wear an apron and looks like a dress, or a skirt if it's a mini apron. So we start defining roles. But then the problem comes, Ellen White tells you to wear trousers in one breath. In another breath she says it's an abomination to wear trousers. So how do we reconcile that issue? Is it okay to wear trousers at home when no one's looking, but not in the public? Is it okay to wear trousers at home when you go shopping in the public, but not when you go to the sanctuary? Because God has got stricter standards there. We know he's got stricter standards because you can talk in public, but you can't talk in the sanctuary. So we have some kind of argument to say he's got a higher standard. How do we deal with all of these things? Did they answer your question satisfactorily? Because this issue has come into the movement as an overwhelming surprise. The first reaction that most people give is, God says we shouldn't be wearing trousers if you're a woman. And that's all I know. Which is fair enough if that's all you know. But then the questions start coming up. And when the questions start coming up, people either shut down, or they ignore you, or they just throw quotes at you, and they stop thinking. So what should distinguish us from everyone else is that we're willing to think. If you're not willing to think, I was going to say why you're here, but you won't be here for very long, because we'll say something that makes you think, and if you don't want to think, you'll say it's all error and you'll leave. This is what's happened between us and Future for America. I'm saying they've stopped thinking. They say we lie. They say we manipulate plain reading of God's word. Each of us have to decide. Because we all know, if you know them well enough, that they're plain reading that it's an abomination for women to wear trousers, that they wear trousers. I don't know what they do now, but they used to wear trousers at home in the privacy when no one's looking, or if they're doing some work. They've got no problems wearing trousers, but they would do it only in certain circumstances. So there's no consistency. We haven't finished our study yet, but I want to ask some questions. My sister, what do you think about this issue of trousers and skirts? Are women allowed to wear skirts? Should women be wearing trousers? Does equality demand that you wear trousers? Can you do what you want? Is it an abomination to wear trousers? How do you view this, based upon what we've spoken of thus far? There are some trousers for women. You're okay? Is it necessary? According to? I didn't hear. According to what? You said according to something, it's necessary. Equality. So I didn't hear what you said. So according to equality, it's necessary. Do we see equality in this verse? No, there's no equality here. So according to the verse that we've studied thus far, it's not good that women should wear trousers, but you don't have a problem wearing trousers. And not only that, you see it's necessary based on the subject of equality. You can't put gentleman's trousers. How do you know if it's the man's trousers or women's trousers? How would you know the difference? Do you have, I don't know if you do, in the West we have charity shops. I don't know if you have charity shops here, second hand. And it's not even just if you're poor you go there, lots of people go there. I've been to second hand shops, if you're looking for some clothing, on a rack, and it says, on sale. The prices are already cheap, but sometimes they're on sale. So the normal price would be, if you buy a pair of jeans, it would be $50. And then the normal price at that second-hand shop is $5. So it's $5 for all the jeans. Then they do some special offer and say, everything on this rack is $1. So I don't know if you're like me, I'd go to the $1 rack and look there first. And there's all these jeans. And I say, oh, these jeans look nice. They really look good. Then I check the size and look at it, and it's women's jeans. And I was looking at them from the bottom all the way up to the top, and I couldn't tell until I saw the label. As soon as I saw the label, I said, oh, unclean. Can't wear that. I thought they were good a minute ago, but now they're untouchable. Let me go to the next one. Oh, it's a men's one. That's better. So I think that's how we think. Does that make any sense? So they cut the label off. They only have the size. says size 28. I said, oh, I'm a size 28. I can try on the jeans. And they fit quite well. The hips are a bit baggy. I thought maybe they're regular fit, not the skin tight ones that all you men wear. It's the normal fit that I like. We call it relaxed. So I can feel relaxed. I said, this feels relaxed to me. They must be good. So how do I know? Why do things become dirty with labels? Any other comments? Anyone want to make a comment? Some of the sisters. I want some sisters to make some comments. Oh, my 4 sisters. Thank you. So you said it was hypocrisy, abomination, madness, bad. Why we do that? Now what you're saying? They can't see it on the camera. It's got a nice chicken here. My sister. You don't have a problem anymore wearing trousers under a skirt? Ellen White says you're required to. Only because you live here. If you live where... No, actually, Ellen White lives in a hot place as well. Overheating your body. I've seen people here, I don't know how hot it is, 26, 27 now. I've seen people in jumpers, in cardigans. I don't know how they manage. Your brother right next to you. So, I don't go to the argument that you would overheat. I don't think you would overheat. You could just have light. You said it was wrong. Then, yes, so I'm asking now, after enlightenment, is it okay? No problem? Why? Yeah, so men can't look up your legs. And to keep your legs warm. Or keep your legs cool, protect you from the sun, because they don't have sunscreen. Depends on the weather. Light or heavy duty material, depending on the weather, if it's cold or winter. Yeah, but the principle. Why is it wrong when Ellen White says we should? You wouldn't do it mandatorily. My sister. You don't think it's? So it's not bad. Okay. But all I wanted to show that she takes a Bible verse, I don't know how many dispensations away from hers, brings it, said this shows that we can't wear the same types of clothing, but women can wear pants underneath their dresses. And you say, that's okay. And before I think you said it was hypocrisy. But you don't see hypocrisy? You see it's okay now? So what's Ellen White teaching us then? Hypocrisy? So she's saying at that time we can be hypocrites, or it wasn't hypocrisy then. In fact, they're all hypocrites. Remember, maybe they should they're dressing according to their name. Hypocrites. You don't mean that though. If it's hypocrisy, it's not hypocrisy for her. Why is it hypocrisy for you? Why is that hypocritical? I can understand it's hot, but why is it hypocritical? What are you pretending to be? Sorry? Something that you're not. So, if you were wearing that, what would it say that you're pretending to be? Pretending to be a man, half woman? I don't see what hypocrisy you're referring to. I'll move on because I know you're busy. My sister at the back. Yeah.
When you read the verse and then again say that his wife is put on a trouser inside and a skirt on top, I think that's what he's calling hypocrisy.
That's what?
He's calling hypocrisy.
Who's calling that hypocrisy?
My sister.
I know what she's saying, but my question is, Ellen White says that was God's will for the women in that era, to put pants underneath a long skirt dress for modesty and for health reasons. That was in that dispensation. So it was not hypocrisy then, but it would be hypocrisy now. So in Ellen White's day, it's hypocrisy just to wear trousers, but it's not hypocrisy to wear skirts and trousers. And would it be hypocrisy just to wear skirts? You can see it just doesn't feel right. That's hypocrisy. That's not hypocrisy, and the one in the middle isn't hypocrisy. You can already see I've got trouble with that, because I'd say hypocrisy on either side, extreme. Neutral place, the balanced place is where both of them. And if women should do that, why don't men? My sister. So if you put a skirt with the trousers underneath for health and modesty, why should we not do that today? Why does she want us to wear the dress for? What's the point about the dress? Because I think you just said, we'll get rid of the skirt and just leave the trousers there. Why won't she get rid of the skirt or the dress? Based upon this verse. So she does not care if you wear trousers in secret. Can we see that? So she doesn't care if you wear trousers in secret, but the verse doesn't teach that. So she's added that concept in. Secret underneath your skirt, that means at home it could be secret. When you go shopping, as long as you wear the skirt secretly, be okay. Yeah? So if I wore a skirt secretly under my trousers or in my trousers, I'd be okay. If I could get it in there. That would be okay. In theory. Don't know why I'd want to do that, but in theory that wouldn't be a problem. That wouldn't be an abomination then, would it? If I said, let me show you what I've got. Let's not get rude. Under my trousers, and I pulled out a skirt. I said, look, it's been there all the time. You would say, that's fine. Quality. Okay, let's come back to our verse now. We've got a lot of problems with this verse. What did we study this morning? we got this verse, we chopped some noise out. The noise was the abomination bit, God, and we focused on, call it compare and contrast, which you could then say is repeat and enlarge. We're going to compare men and women, we'll juxtapose them. So electricity is gone. We now have another evening to study this passage, and what we're going to look at is why the wording is different. So compare and contrast, compare men and women, repeat and enlarge, they're both the same. You're not allowed, you're not allowed. And where we want to see is why the words are different. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your goodness and mercy. We want to ask and pray that you would bless us, guide us, and strengthen us in the meditation and study of your word. May each of us, through these classes, learn how to approach you. May we gain a familiarity of who you are, how you behave, what you like and what you dislike. Father, the more we get to know you, the more we can please you, the more we can do things that make you happy. And if you're happy, Father, we can be happy. Because we know that's the only way any relationship works, is by making people happy. Father, at this school, may we take just that one thought and desire to make one another happy. If we truly believe in equality, may it be the desire of the men in this school to make the women here happy, to lighten their burdens and make their lives more comfortable. May the women here enjoy their time with the men, and may they, in their own way, make the lives of the brothers here happier. Lord, be with us. Help us to have a clear understanding of what this verse means for us, what you're trying to show us. We pray in Jesus' name.